When you get your OHIP card, you will be covered for appointment with your family doctor, visit to walk-in clinic and some other healthcare providers, visit to emergency room, medical test and surgery. Name is written exactly, write the name. And once this is done, you print this form. When you're first time landing in Canada, the challenge would be to have this address proof. And you see, even though the website says you will be covered, there is no waiting period, you still need to have address proof. So the earliest you can get is if you get into any rental agreement, you have that copy with you, or wait for the first bank statement or your phone statement and insurance policy. So that time you are exposed. If something happens to you, the expense will be out of pocket. By now you would have understood that.
These many of you have not been subscribing to my channel, and most of you are coming back to watch other videos. So my request is kindly subscribe to the channel. This helps the channel, and I promise to keep taking feedback from you just like this and bring content which is relevant to you.
For applying OHIP, which is the Ontario Health Insurance Plan, you'll have to come to this website. The link will be there in the description. And you see here, there's no waiting period for OHIP. You do not need to wait to be physically present for 153 days before applying. You can apply for coverage as soon as you arrive in Ontario. So when I had landed as PR, at that time there was a wait period. We had to wait and then apply for OHIP, which was post-COVID waived off. And this is what is currently as I am making video in 2025. For you to be eligible, you see here, to meet the minimum qualification, you must be physically in Ontario for 153 days. I showed you this is not a requirement. You still have to show your intent that Ontario is going to be your primary residence. You can go through this eligibility qualification. You must also meet at least one of the following additional requirement, that is either you are a Canadian citizen, indigenous person registered under Federal Indian Act, permanent resident. I had landed in Canada as a permanent resident, are applying for permanent resident in Canada and have submitted application to IRCC. And IRCC has confirmed they have reviewed the application and that you meet the eligibility requirement to apply and you have not yet been denied. And then are in Ontario on a valid work permit and are working full-time in Ontario for an Ontario employer for at least 6 months. If you're on work permit, then you must meet this requirement. If you meet this requirement, your spouse and dependent may also qualify for OHIP. If your work permit has expired but you hold maintained status, you may be eligible. So please contact Service Ontario for further information. Are in Ontario on a valid work permit under Federal Live-in Caregiver Program. Are in Ontario on a valid work permit under Federal Seasonal Agricultural Worker Program. You can find more detail here on how to register. I'll not be going into this. And then even as a temporary resident, only certain case, for example, 86 through 95. So if you meet any one of the requirement, then you may be eligible for OHIP. In case you are confused, you can just call up the Service Ontario here and see more clarity. Emergency authorization is also granted for humanitarian reason. So you can go through this. I'm not going in detail. And this is how the OHIP card will look. It will have a photo, signature, full name and the OHIP card number. Then the expiry date will be given. It will show the validity date, your date of birth, and it will not have your address, even though sometimes the hospital or doctor's clinic will verify with you if you're staying in the address what you have mentioned earlier. And this is how the card is. For you to apply for OHIP, first and foremost, even before going for the registration and filling the application, you must have 3 separate documents from the list. We will go through the list one by one, and these are not to be photocopy. Photocopy is not accepted. So one original document that proves your Canadian citizenship or OHIP eligible immigration status. So I had shown who all are eligible for OHIP. If you meet that criteria, for example, when I landed here on PR, I was given confirmation of PR, the landing document, which was signed and sealed, and I had submitted that for the OHIP card because the PR card took some time to come. Then one document, original printed or digital electronic document as noted on the list that prove your residency in Ontario. So as I said, your intention to stay in Ontario has to be shown. You'll go through the list of document. One original document that proves your identity. So that also we'll talk about. Let's look at the list of qualifying identification document. First document, proof of Canadian citizenship or OHIP eligible immigration status. One of your document need to prove your Canadian citizenship or OHIP eligible immigration status. Choose one from the list. For Canadian citizen, if you have Canadian passport, it has to be valid or expired no more than 5 years. Birth certificate from Ontario or other Canadian province or territory issued under Vital Statistics Act. Canadian certificate of registration of birth abroad. Certified statement of live birth from Ontario or other Canadian province or territory. Certificate of Canadian citizenship or certificate of naturalization. Paper document or card not commemorative issue. Certificate of Indian status, paper or plastic card. Registration, Indian record certified. Temporary confirmation of registration document. So if you are Canadian citizen, one of these document you will have to submit. For permanent resident card must be valid or expired no more than 5 years. When I landed, I had confirmation of permanent residence. So this is what I had submitted. Canadian immigration identity card, record of landing, IM 1000. So one of the document you will have to submit. For applicant for permanent resident who have submitted the application for PR, in that case, you must produce the IRCC letter, which is on the IRCC letterhead addressed to you as applicant. States IRCC has confirmed you meet the eligibility requirement to apply for permanent residence in Canada and you have not yet been denied. So once you have applied, you would get that email from IRCC. If you have that document, that is well and good. IRCC document, that is work permit, visitor record, temporary residence permit or study permit with a note confirming all three of the following you have applied for permanent residence, met the eligibility requirement to apply for permanent residence, have not yet been denied. So as long as all these three criteria are met, you would be good. For other immigration status, letter from Immigration and Refugee Board confirming convention, refugee or protected person status document, temporary resident permit, case type 86 through 95 only, work permit, proof of full-time employment for an employer in Ontario is required where restriction apply. This must be an original or digital document, contract or letter on employer's company letterhead signed and dated by employer and the state that the employee is working full-time, the title, occupation of the position, start date of employment and that the employer intend to employ the employee for minimum of 6 months. The letter can state the employee is permanent. However, this does not replace the criteria to confirm full time. So keep this in mind. Then verification of status, this IMM form, written confirmation from IRCC that you are eligible to apply for Canadian citizenship under section 5.1 of Canada Citizenship Act. So you need to have one of these document as document 1. For proof of residency in Ontario, it's a long list. What is important is if you're new, you might not have access to many of the documents like driving license. It requires some time before you get it. So in all possibility, you might have utility bill, cable, TV, hydro, gas, water. This has to come to the address what you mention on the bill and this will be a physical delivery. It will be sent by post. That copy you will have to have. Digital one, you can check with Service Ontario if it is accepted. Monthly bank account statement, again, just ask the bank to send this as a physical copy. It's going to save you time. Otherwise, you'll have to make a visit to bank and get it on a letterhead, which might be chargeable by the bank. So you can avoid those charges. If you have an insurance policy, again, home delivered, phone bill, which is even cell phone is accepted, and credit card statement. So one of these I'm sure you must be having. If not, any other from the list. If you have driving license, it'll be doing most of the work and only original document will be accepted for Ontario driving license, temporary driving license only if accompanied by photo license card with same address, valid Ontario photo ID card, Ontario motor vehicle permit, plate or vehicle portions. So if you are getting any of these, it has to be an original document. So that's why just go through the list. The ones which I shared are the easy ones. When you're first time landing in Canada, the challenge would be to have this address proof. And you see, even though the website says you will be covered, there is no waiting period, you still need to have address proof. So the earliest you can get is if you get into any rental agreement, you have that copy with you, or wait for the first bank statement or your phone statement and insurance policy. So that time you are exposed. If something happens to you, the expense will be out of pocket. By now, you would have understood that. Let me share our experience. When we landed, there was a wait period and we were exposed to the risk of going to hospital. Emergency could come up anytime. So we had taken an insurance till such time one of us got the job, because after that the company had given an insurance coverage. So we were good with that till such time we got the OHIP card with us. Proof of identity is an easy one. The third different document need to prove who you are. These documents must include your name and signature. Choose from one of the list. So if you have a passport that is going to do the job, you see here permanent resident card is also listed here, record of landing and passport, Canadian or foreign. Then there is a list of other document. You would definitely have one of the document. So have that. Once you have all these three documents, you're now ready to do the application. If you don't have any one of the document, then remember you are exposed to any emergency, any hospitalization, unless you're covered by your employer insurance. Again, there it might differ from employer to employer. Some might cover everything, some might have a cap. So there are chances that something might go out of your pocket, or you have your own private insurance where depending on what insurance you take, you might save some money here if you have to go for any hospital clinic visit during this interim period till such time you have OHIP. So if you are exposed, the money goes out of your pocket. When you get your OHIP card, you will be covered for appointment with your family doctor, visit to walk-in clinic and some other healthcare providers, visit to emergency room, medical tests and surgeries. And to be covered by OHIP, you must have medical reason to receive a service or treatment. Cosmetic surgery, for example, is not covered. Considering that you have required document, all three document for you to fill the application. Once you have the document to fill the application, you have to complete the registration form. Let me show you this. You download the form. You see it has PDF version and HTML version, and English and French both are available. Once you download, open with Adobe Acrobat, and this is the English form you see here, followed by French below. So you will enter your personal detail, whether you are a new returning resident for Ontario, and then the agreement. So this is the registration form. Let's start filling the registration form. Fill the last name and first name as it is in your official document. If you are submitting passport, for example, how the name is written, exactly write the name, last name, first name. If you have middle name, enter that. Sex, you make a selection here, then enter the date of birth as per the official document. And then official language preference, you can choose between English and French. I have kept it at English. Have you ever had an Ontario health number? In case you had and now you're applying after its expiry, in that case you will choose yes. If not, no. If you're first timer, the response will be no. And in case you had the OHIP, then you will enter the number. Then you will enter the home telephone number here. So first 3 digit of the mobile. Nowadays everyone have mobile. Enter the mobile number and then you see remaining 7 digit. Once that is done, it will show up like this. If you don't have a phone, then you can select this and then work or other telephone number. If you have, make an entry. If not, you can just leave it. Enter the mailing address. You see here apartment, street number, name, city, province, postal code, country as it is in the document what you will be submitting, exactly same. Now you see the completed mailing address, apartment, street number, name, city, province, postal code, country as Canada, and then residence address. If it is different from above, you will enter the address here. I have repeated the same address and then date, move to this address that you will make an entry. If you have landed as PR, the date when you move to this address, you will mention that. If it is from the day one, that will go in. And then section B to be completed only by new or returning resident. So you will enter where you moved in from, the country detail. Let me show you the field one. You enter. Here I have shown the address of the country from where the move has happened, city, province, state, country, and when you did leave this above address. So that address detail has been entered like this. You can see here it is little different from how the earlier box was. So once that is entered, when did you arrive in Ontario? You make the date mention as per your entry, and then when did you take up permanent residency in Ontario? If this was from day one, you will enter that date. If not, when you got, you enter that. How long do you plan to live in Ontario? You will have to choose your response. And then if you move from another part of Canada where you were covered by government health plan, here I have left it blank because it was just first move. If it is the case in your case, you'll have to make a selection and enter the health card number. Are you a Canadian citizen returning to Canada? No. Immigrant returning to Canada? No. Are you a new immigrant? Yes. Once I make that selection for these two, again you will choose your response. Here my response is no, and so is the case here. Spouse or dependent of regular force of members of Canadian forces? No. Reservist returning from out of country posting? Here the response is no. If it is yes, you will make an entry and enter the date. Are you spouse or dependent of reservist currently deployed by Canadian forces in active service? The response is no. Once that is done, you come to the agreement part where you go through this, and then if you are the applicant, you will select this. If you are the parent of the applicant, then you will select this. If you are the legal guardian of the applicant, then you will select this. If you are power of attorney, then you make the selection. By default, the date will show up. If not, you will enter the date here. So I'm selecting applicant, and once this is done, you print this form by clicking here. If you don't want to print immediately, even then you can just click print form, and here instead of printer, select Microsoft Print to PDF and click print. This will save PDF copy, which you, when you open this here, you see this will come as the filled application, which you can print anywhere you want. We now have the filled application, all the document what is required. Now next step is to apply, going at Service Ontario Center. For you to check where to go, click here. You come to this Find Service Ontario location. You enter your postal code. Once you make a selection and you enter OHIP and make a selection, come down, you can choose from here appointment booking, offered, or you don't want this, you can uncheck this, and any of these required, then go for search. You will get the closest location where you can go and submit the document, and if there is an booking appointment possible. So once you do with the booking or walk-in is allowed, you can go and check here. This is the entire list I'm showing for Mississauga. You just walk in and hand over the document. You'll be given a temporary OHIP slip with which you will be able to get all the assistance what was shown till a physical copy comes to your place. Remember, OHIP card comes with a validity period, so just sign up for renewal reminder. That way you will never miss and you will not have an expired card. You don't have to remember when to get this renewed, and you will all be good. Just not the OHIP. You see, there are other services too which you can go for automatic renewal reminder.